Hey, we're here at CloudWorld, and it's fantastic. I think there's a buzz in the air, and there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, we're going to talk about cloud.
I hope so.
If you put that in the name, you might as well keep going with it. But with everything that's going on, I think that, I think there's a lot to cover. I got my badge, I got my lanyard, I'm good to go. I think the weather's been fantastic, and everybody I've run into so far has been just excited to be here, especially new things that come out with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Also known as OCI for those that don't know. But again, I think the big thing that, take away from this conference is, especially when there's so many clouds to choose from, you're talking about technologies that have to be flexible, have to be, capable of doing a lot of things, being able to integrate, handle security, quickly provision, deprovision. You want a low latency network. All of these just kind of add up to what you see with OCI.
Sure. Well, should we introduce ourselves?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why don't you go first? You've got the stage.
So I'm Brent Skillings. I'm the Director of Solution Architecture for Centroid.
Great. And I'm Scott Whitley. I'm the VP of Sales for Centroid. It's a really exciting time, not only for Oracle, but for Centroid too. So I echo everything you're saying. I think there is a lot of excitement in the air. I think it's a very pivotal time in technology for Oracle. But I also think that they've done a lot of unique things that we should talk about and maybe let you guys know about if you don't know about them. But I think what's interesting is that there's a shift in the perspective of Oracle, which I'm mostly excited about. So my role really deals with a lot of the business side, right? So contracts, negotiations, really relationships between customers and Oracle. And so when you talk about the shift to cloud, the move to cloud, that means you have to manage relationships better. And we won't skirt around it, right? Oracle has a past, has a relationship and with customers. And I like the direction this is going. It's more customer focused, and that takes time, but there's a lot of great things happening. And not only do we see that from the technology they're building, I think, but also from the relationship management and the way they're structuring sales and doing things differently. So I think there's a lot to talk about.
Sure. Well, and keeping it customer focused, that's one thing that I think that Centroid does a great job. It's one of the things that I think that has made a lot of people that have not been familiar with cloud have certainly, our company here at Centroid has been one that has helped facilitate in that manner. But OCI has a lot of cool things. And again, for those that have not been working with this technology, you're talking about 43 and counting number of live OCI regions now worldwide available. They built everything from this Gen 2 architecture really around the whole idea of non-blocking virtual cloud network. And you're talking about, it has to be a maximum of 2 hops inside that network firewall. And so, the full bandwidth of all these services can be used in that capacity without any network latency. So having that with high-speed compute that's used on bare metal as well as their VMs, you're talking about, using the technology of Exadata, right? And there's no other company out there that has that type of technology. And they also are leveraging this not only in the public cloud, but also their own cloud at customer options too. So they now have, they've had Exadata cloud at customer for a while, but now compute cloud at customer. So now you can handle that application tier out there as well.
Yeah.
So now you add that with the way the subscription price is handled. You're talking about pricing that also is the same worldwide. Not just in one region, but everywhere. So it's always consistent.
Talk about a simple idea that just makes a huge change, right?
So you talk about that, and then you also got the Oracle support reward. So, many companies have equity wrapped up in licensing. So when you have that, and now you're able to take that and get, 25 cents for every dollar that you spend within OCI and have that accrued, in arrears, that's huge cost savings.
Right.
And then just recently, of course, it's not recent. It's been a few years now, but it's that partnership with Microsoft has been growing too. So that now, especially leveraging customers that are doing multi-cloud and being able to now use a partner like Microsoft to join the forces of Azure and OCI collectively together. Now you're talking, you can do the best of both worlds, especially those that may have a very large .NET presence.
Yeah, talk about putting customer first, right? Two major cloud providers helping each other's market share.
Right.
Crazy idea.
But again, the thing about it is it's not just the standard compute storage network that OCI brings. Now you're talking about now getting into new services, edge services, and data lake services, artificial intelligence,
right?
Machine learning. Those things are becoming more and more prevalent. The ability to now take Kubernetes and break that into, or having a cluster of those where you can now move this environment very readily across different platforms, using streaming technology to gather that information as you get data in real time.
Right.
I mean, these are fantastic tenets of OCI, and it makes it where, again, why wouldn't you do that?
Right. So. Right. Why not? So just for everybody that's listening, right? Centroid is really kind of vendor agnostic. Now, we've really positioned ourselves really well in the Oracle space just because we see what the advantages are and what they're doing in the marketplace differently. But we do manage workloads in AWS, GCP, Azure, even IBM Cloud. So we've got capabilities outside of it. So that's why we get really excited about OCI, because taking a step back from the non-technical, you can tell Brent is way more technical than I am.
Don't sell yourself short, Scott. You do a great job.
But if you take a step back and look at it from a business perspective, I think OCI is the first Gen 2, let's clarify that, is the first cloud that is really built more towards customer workloads, not a repurposed cloud where maybe it was built for YouTube or something else. Nothing wrong with that, right? Those clouds were worked. But from my side, when we talk about financials and things, some of the things that you're touching on have real impacts to businesses that we haven't been able to have, right? And so,
and Centroid's able to give them that roadmap.
Yeah.
So we work hand in hand with the customer to build out what that future state looks like, and be able to how does it impact them financially? Because at the end of the day, is it going to cost me less? Is it going to be more efficient? Am I going to be able to do more with less? And the answer is yes. So Centroid is a great partner to work with in terms of, meeting, checking all these boxes to get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, especially right now, right? With the economic times, that do more with less is really important. That's a very key thing that you just said, because a lot of CIOs, a lot of CFOs are coming to us and basically saying, hey, I have to cut staff or I have to cut budget. So how do I do this? Because I definitely don't want to cut staff, right? And the number one play right now is OCI. And everybody knows it. AWS is trying to discount against it, right? Azure is partnering with OCI because it's better to have a frenemy than, not go against them, right? So I think the writing's on the wall from that standpoint. You have this cloud that is trying to take over a market share, and it's a good time to take advantage of it. But going back to the technical side, the way that they built it, your dollar is worth more than it is in AWS or Azure. Can you touch on that from a technical perspective?
Well, I mean, the standpoint of, for instance, customers, and just to kind of, I want to touch upon that whole thing on Centroid. So Centroid has been in this business with and partnering with Oracle for 25 years now, right? So, I mean, they have the technical acumen to handle these type of things. They have actually transitioned as Oracle has moved for more on-prem loads to the cloud. They've been with them that entire way.
Right.
So being able to show them how they can financially, reduce that cost from where they are today and where they need to be.
You mean the cloud can be less expensive?
It can be.
Yes.
It's sometimes it looks like a shell game, but the thing that Centroid does is show you where it can be less expensive. Now, there may be situations, and again, they're usually outliers, where it may be where it's more advantageous for the customer to keep it on-prem, but cloud at customer becomes another option for them to use. And it may be data resiliency, it may be other things that keep them, auditing and whatnot, that they themselves don't believe that the cloud is just right for them. Or it's, put their toe in the water before they move forward with a full-blown public cloud.
Yeah.
But the differentiators from my perspective that Centroid brings to the table is that, again, the technical acumen I mentioned, they have a deep understanding of Oracle e-business suite. They've worked with business intelligence and analytics for years now. So again, having a partner that knows these type of things and is able to then, take where they are today and move them into that environment is huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And it's also a big risk for companies to do that. So having a trusted partner, and I'm going to correct you because it's we, right? So so we, right? That's our business. We've been doing this for 25 years, as Brent has mentioned. So really just a quick history about Centroid, really cut our teeth in EBS, really intensive workloads, really hard deployments back 25 years ago. It's a little bit more, I would say, common practice today, but at that point, it was a cutting edge, more difficult, a lot of customizations you had to figure out, do things, different time, right? So just having that knowledge and that background to today, I mean, the depth that we have around enterprise workloads, not only EBS, but maybe PeopleSoft or JDE or whatever is going to the cloud, or custom apps, or non-Oracle workloads, which we haven't touched on yet, really.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's a really exciting time for us, I think, in general, just because, again, there's this market share that's here, and there's something empowering customers, right?
Well, and I interrupted you earlier, the question that you asked me.
Yes,
but
what did I ask you?
I'm not real sure. But I think it had more to do with the financial aspect.
Yeah. So the financial aspect between OCI and the other clouds, right? So having the cloud playing in a different area, right? Giving that compute more. Can you touch on that from a technical perspective, just briefly?
From a price perspective, and I think Larry Ellison has made that very clear. It's like if you're able to run faster, it's going to be cheaper overall.
Sure.
So if you're able to run a workload in, it may be more expensive if you have more core, but if you're able to run it in a shorter amount of time, now you're saving money because you're not needing to execute at that high level of core count at that time.
Okay.
And the ability to scale up and scale down to deal with that workload. Now you can size your workloads based on average, not peak.
Sure.
So now everything's based on a much lower
huge
percentile.
Point right there. On average, not peak, right? Because we've come up in this era that we have to have everything licensed.
Everything's based on capacity.
Yeah, right. So that's a huge financial benefit that I don't think people really realize. But it's a lot around the Oracle workloads. Now the non-Oracle workloads, I mean, there's even benefit there. We're seeing reductions from 20 to 30 to 40%, depending on what cloud that you're coming from, or even on-prem, right?
Well, and Oracle provides you, the OCI provides you such a plethora of different options to choose from that's going to match what that workload requires.
Right.
So, if you're just wanting to use standard VMs, or you need a dedicated bare metal environment, or you need the GBUs, in terms of how it's playing into it. So it's fantastic because, again, now you can scale it based on what your workload is, and then be able to, essentially grow if need be. With the scalability aspect. So you're able to then, base it solely on what your workload is, not what you may expect it in the future, because it all scales automatically.
So I've got a cloud that I can base my workload on that runs faster, less network collisions, a lot of things that happen from the technical perspective.
Right.
Now, here's the big question, right? And this is the one that I think a lot of CFOs ask, is that I've got a cloud that's in a new market. They're going to raise my price, right? So one thing that I'll tell you is, sure, it could happen. Renewals, right? Try to get it in your contracts, do whatever you can, right, to protect yourself. But if you could take a look at the way that they're pricing it, is really interesting. So if you look at AWS, GCP, Azure, you're getting 30, 40, 50% discounts, right? Whatever the volume-based is. Maybe that's aggressive, maybe it's not, depending on the size, right? Oracle's got a standard discounting process that's published. And we're talking about 5, 10%, 15%. And the reason is because so many services are included for free. So you have a market here where they're not trying to come in and say, hey, we're going to strip your discounts from you. Like, the published price is the published price. This is they're not paying for the business, if that makes sense. Now, prices could change, right? Things could go up. But a lot of times what we're seeing is actually prices have gone down as they've gotten better. And so it's really interesting because I think if you look at it, maybe you can cut your costs with AWS, but how long is that going to last, right? And so not knocking AWS, but just from a pricing structure, Oracle's done a really great job on including some things in here and just setting themselves apart.
Well, and that's the whole thing. It's a price, that price breakdown of how it works within that workload. And again, I think the price per workload has always been consistently less than any other cloud provider.
Sure.
And so that's where I think the differentiators come, that especially if you're a CFO, you want to see what the bottom line is. From a technical perspective, it checks all the boxes.
Sure.
But again, at the end of the day, who's paying for it. And
Right.
so, CFOs, those that hold the purse strings for each customer, they're going to be excited that this is going to be less expensive for them.
Should we talk about egress? Should we talk about expensive?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we didn't even touch upon that. So the whole aspect behind OCI has always been, you know what, we're not going to charge you for, the egress charges or the ingress charges, and so when you're using OCI, that's so much different than others, and that's why several have come to OCI in general, is because my bill in terms of sending, pushing data out of my current cloud environment is expensive.
Sure.
It's just literally chewing up my budget, and it wasn't factored in to anything I did initially. So now when several customers that have come to us and they're like, hey, can you reduce this? We're like, yeah, that's an easy one.
Right.
Right. I mean, especially
Yes, day one.
You're using Fast Connect. There's no charge for that.
Right.
You've got that already in play. So if it scales up to a tremendous mountain of data that you're trying to move across the network,
Sure.
now you've got a consistent price that's associated with that.
That's awesome.
So I mean, what's great is that during this conference, there's going to be more.
Right.
And
right.
what more can you do? Right.
I know. So there's one thing too that Centroid's done, right? So we should talk about it. So Centroid made a commitment on your behalf, right? And what that means is we made in excess of $50 million commitment to Oracle, right? So why is that important to you? It's because we did it and you don't have to, right? So we now provide you a place to purchase cloud on demand with discounts, and we take the financial risk, not you. What?
Well, and that shortens the timeline.
Sure.
In terms of getting all these contracts done, because there's a lot of things that go on, to get an Oracle contract in place. And Centroid's gone in there and kind of streamlined that.
Sure. Yeah, we have. Absolutely. And the other thing is we're seeing customers see savings year one, right? Unheard of,
Yes.
right? Transitions and savings year one. And we can talk about them. Maybe not here. Maybe we'll have them talk about themselves. But I mean, it's repeatable. It's over and over again. We're seeing multiple savings. And so it's been a great effort, I think.
Yeah. So, and not just that, but we're also looking at, or Centroid we've been very helpful, I think, to customer bases look at their licensing footprint.
Sure.
And what they can do. I mean, we've several customers just recently, we've helped, quite a bit in that light where, it's what can I do with this licensing footprint and how can I squeeze as much out of it as possible? So, Centroid goes in and looks at what they're doing and saying, okay, is it cloud? Is it on-prem? It could be a combination of both.
Sure.
Hybrid is it's a crawl, walk, run thing
Right.
in some cases. So that's one thing that Centroid can has, but that can do for them. But also, I think, as OCI changes over time, so they're adding, these new OE landing zones.
Okay.
They're doing cloud at compute,
Right.
Cloud at customer that they're adding to the mix. A lot of this knowledge management stuff is being added to the mix. New management capabilities, new things with Microsoft. In fact, those are the things that Centroid does to keep pace with what the customer is doing.
Sure.
And so that's what's going to be fantastic is the OCI changes, Centroid's there too.
Sure. So I'm gonna do a shameless plug here because I am VP of Sales, right? So one of the things that Brent is referring to is something that we call Oracle Procurement Office, which is a service that we sell and it's led by our teams. And it's actually where we go through and analyze your support, your contracting with Oracle, whether that's cloud, on-prem, SaaS, doesn't matter.
Yep.
We deal with it all, even bringing in technologies outside of Oracle into OCI. But we manage that on the customer's behalf. And so help negotiate, procure. It looks different in every scenario, but actually doing that is a service that we do offer. Is high with divestitures, mergers, or just standard operations where your procurement doesn't necessarily have the experience to do this, right? Because we do it every week, not like they do. Shameless plug, please contact us, 1-800-CALL-CENTROID, right? But I think that's an extreme value add service in the market today.
No, I think there's going to be customers that are really going to look into that in depth because it's one where, the ones that we've worked in right now have been very happy and they're able to use Oracle technology, but there's no pressure. They feel that Centroid is really there for them.
Yeah.
And so it makes a big difference.
And
But
we're here at CloudWorld, right? Oracle likes it
Absolutely.
too, right? You realize you make it great for the customer. You also make it easier for Oracle. Everybody wins, right? So I'm excited to do more of it. Hopefully we'll meet some people
I can't
here.
wait to go meet out with our customers this week.
Yeah, we have a lot. There's a lot here, a lot of attendance.
A lot of fun. So
yeah, we've got a couple customers actually doing some spots and speaking, which is really exciting. One in particular, can we mention their name? Yes. It's published, right? So we'll do it. So Beachbody is here speaking on a project that they did. I won't go into details as I don't want to share all that stuff, but it was an extremely successful cost savings move to OCI, proud partner of ours. Very excited about that. Last year we had Subaru doing some roundtables with us too. This year we're doing executive roundtables. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. But I'm just excited to see
we also have
people.
our EPM team.
Yes.
That's going to be doing their presentation.
Yes, big shout out to EPMI, our latest acquisition, has become part of the team very quickly, focusing on the financial move to SaaS, right? So traditionally you see maybe EPM move first and then start looking at the ERP, right?
Absolutely.
What does that actual journey to SaaS look like? Which, comes back to the whole idea of Centroid services, right? So we're geared on the journey to SaaS or whatever that journey is for you, right? So what is your organization trying to do? And what is a realistic journey? Not, I'm going to implement this product and make it work, but how do I make my business do what I need my business to do, right?
Sounds like we got a full week.
I know.
I can't wait.
Just started.
All right.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.